closing deals to opening minds. This is the Mr. D podcast. I'm Omar Andreasen, and we're about to get real about real estate, success, and the grit that it takes to build your best life. Let's dive on in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Mr. Deed podcast show. My name is Omar Andreasen, aka Mr. Deed, and today we have Mr. James Davis. He's actually the founder of Awarded RFP, a consulting firm that helps businesses master the RFP process and scale through structure, strategy, and competitive proposal development. He actually specializes in guiding firms to win government and corporate contracts by improving compliance, efficiency, and clarity in their submissions. James also provides training and advisory support to teams looking to systemize their RFP workflow and increase award rates. That's a lot, man. So you just so government contracts, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What in the hell made you get into that?
Accidentally, I was working for a property management company that specialized in government contracts, and I had help them win a couple of them. And I said, you know what? This isn't rocket science. We can do this. We can dial this in and really systematize this process in a way that it doesn't take weeks to put it together. When I was doing it with their CEO, as soon as the bid became available, we started writing, and we would go back and forth and on the process over and over again. And this was, I think, their maybe third or fourth round of doing it. Just the pages of notes and reviewing. Some of these government RFPs are 75 pages just by themselves. And then by the time you read the previous RFP for who won it 3 years ago or whatever the contract term was, and figure out what made their RFP stand out and why it was good. And then you read the one that's current, and then you still have to write your own back of 75 pages plus. It just becomes a long novel of information. And so we found ways to speed that process up. After we went through a dozen of these or so, you find the similarities, even across municipalities, even across state lines. You find the things that are in almost every RFP, and you can really create a flow to the entire thing.
So what does RFP mean?
Request for proposal. So in the government sector, if there's a contract worth over a certain amount of money, the government's required to request for proposal and allow outside organizations bidding on it. So that's how it comes up.
So, I mean, that's interesting. So, is this somewhere that anybody can just go and search, all right, I guess for any RFP that maybe the government is looking to take a bid on, all the way from what, maybe a new, I don't know, snack machine or missiles or
Yeah. Short answer, yes. They're available on government websites. We also offer subscription services that basically you subscribe to our search. We're already doing the search, and many of the searches are paid searches. So we pay for them. We collect all the information in one place and offer a subscription service. If anybody wants it specifically for the state of Florida, for example, we'll curate that list so you don't have to go digging. But it's funny that you mentioned snack machines and missiles. Those are the two extremes. And Fort Lauderdale is actually, the airport is doing a request for proposal process right now because they are going to be expanding that airport. Well, I was just in Florida a couple of weeks ago at their essentially convention where they brought in all of the vendors and explained the different kinds of requests that they were looking for, the categories of requests. I didn't see any missiles in there, but there were some lounge areas that are closer to the snack machine, restaurant opportunities, etc., that all come through that. It's government and corporate that are doing these requests. Yeah.
So What what common mistakes do companies that make during the RFP process, would you say, that you see?
Yeah, so a big one that we guide organizations through and really get hands-on depending on the need of the organization is the actual transition. So this happens after they win the contract and the government organization is saying, "Okay, I want you taking over, in our case, it's real estate, right? I want you taking over the management of these properties in 30 days. Oh, by the way, it's 1,000 units." That transition is it's a really complex one to just bring on 1,000 units that you weren't expecting last week. And so that hiring the right people, going through those interviews. Last time I did it, I hired 40 people in 3 weeks, and we were up and running by week 5 because that was just our deadline. So that's a portion of it. Of course, the common mistakes in writing the proposal. I think a lot of people think they can just open up Chat GPT and no one's going to notice and it's totally fine, no big deal. Let me put this proposal together. In reality, it just isn't close enough because everybody has access to that tool. And even the paid version is $20 a month or whatever. So it's such a low barrier to entry. You really do have to read all of the content to figure out what's going on. So I think some people are just rifling through it, hoping to get 1 in 5 or something along those lines. I think that's a mistake. And then I don't think they're staffing appropriately when they do get it. That all of a sudden, the concern comes when the brand is at risk because leadership didn't think through all of the steps involved in bringing on these brand new, however many units that they weren't planning on last week.
So let me ask, okay, so this is completely new to me. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners too. So let's say I'm sitting there listening to you talk and I'm like, man, you know what? Maybe I might be interested in getting involved in something like this. How can anywhere from somebody who's brand new to a small to a mid-sized firm really compete with those national organizations out there that have probably been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years plus?
Sure. Yeah, and awarded work specifically in that 1 mil to 8 mil revenue stream. So it is smaller organizations overall that we work with. And the short answer is if it's really about good fit. So if I've got a Florida property management firm bidding on something in California, that's probably not there's other property management firms in town that they're probably not going to win that bid. But if they're bidding in Florida or Georgia, they've been in business for that 3 to 5 years, they definitely have some grounds. And then we'll walk through with them how to present the organization in the best light so that they actually can win that bid.
Okay, interesting. So you said between 1 to 8 million. So that does that mean I pretty much need to be an existing company making at least that much
Oh
every single year?
yeah,
Or yeah, okay.
yeah, because especially government agency is going to be looking for an organization who manages properties. So if you're brand new into property management, give it 3 years,
Okay.
tack on some units, get your feet wet, or have the previous experience from the organization you worked at before you started this company. So at least you can lean on, hey, I've been in property management for 17 years. This is just a new entity, but I have an experience in this. A lot of this really isn't about winning the bid. Winning sometimes can sound like that you took a gamble in order to be in the bidding process. This is really about how do I take my fabulous experience, the organization that I've built, the processes and systems that I have in my organization, and how do I apply these and present them to a government in a way that says I'm fully capable of managing these properties and I'm your best choice.
Love that. All right. You help them write the bid, you help them get in front, you help them win the bid. what's next? Do you guys then just disappear into the sunset, or are you still involved there with them as far as advising and going through?
Yeah, it depends on their needs. So if they feel the RFP having that roadmap is enough to bring on those 1,000 units, let's say, and they're ready to go, then they're ready to go. And they can definitely reach out when they've got questions. We've got a consulting division as well, helping property management companies grow from that 1 to 5 million organization. But if they need transition services, that's another service that we offer after they've won that bid. So sometimes organizations need additional support and they don't really have a plan yet for that support. But the government bids that I've been in and won have all been okay, you win the bid. Can you start December 1st? And you're like, man, that's 3 days away. I guess we'll figure this out for the month. And that's not a swing on it on anyone. That's just how the process. That's where the need is.
Mhm.
Solving problems is where we all provide value. So that's how that goes with us too. Yeah.
All right, we just got out of a government shutdown. So if the government is shut down and you win one of these bids with the government, are you still getting paid, or does that also affect you?
It depends on the entity that offered the bid. So the federal government shut down, right? But a
Mhm.
lot of the local city, state governments were still operating
Okay.
moving forward. So those, it really depends on where it is. Now, it might slow down some of the process if many of these bids for property management are in the affordable sector. So the federal government is involved in a portion of that sector, certainly. So there may be things that are slowed down a little bit. Also, this was what the longest shutdown in history, right?
Yeah.
So we shouldn't see another one of these for a little while. Fingers crossed.
Oh, they need
So,
to stop challenging the sources of it,
but
man. Come on
yeah,
now.
yeah. Starting a lot of it's at the city and state level that we're doing business at, so we don't typically have issues.
Okay, awesome. That's good to know. I just figured that, yeah, that wasn't on my show notes, but I'm like just going through it, putting myself in that situation. If I'm a business and I'm like, you know what, I want to reach out to you, and then I'm like, what questions going through my head, and
Sure.
how would that affect me, etc. So, what are the biggest operational challenges that you see growing firms face probably within the last year or so, would you say?
It's not, I don't see a time constraint on this. I see it just as I see more people get into property management, I see the problems, I see the exacerbation of the same problem. And as I help more organizations, I see CEOs running applications. I see CEOs doing the work because they're people who work by nature. That's a characteristic that they have, that they'll step in and they'll do any piece of work. What I think CEOs might be struggling with during that time is a broken system in their property management company because they hired a leasing agent to run that application. And so the problem is not they're not paying that leasing agent a CEO wage to
Mm.
run an application. But when the CEO, runs that application, they're effectively paying a CEO wage to run. They're overpaying, is really where it boils down to. And they're distracting themselves from the things that they should really be working on. And so that is one piece of this that I think organizations are struggling with because they're the kinds of people that just dig in and get their hands dirty. And I don't have any problem with digging in and getting your hands dirty, but recognize the broken system then and work on that broken system, I think is one of the challenges. Another in property management, like I said, when we bring on hundreds of units at a time, the challenge comes, let me say it this way. A lot of CEOs operate under move fast and break things, which is absolutely a method that we see it in tech, we see it all over the place. It's certainly a method to success, and it will generate enough success because you will break things and then you will fix enough things. But instead, I'm going to offer up the you knew it was coming. You do have influence over this. You could put a structure in place to manage this. So if you're going to bring on a new software platform, let's say, don't expect your entire team to just like bear the weight of onboarding this new process. Bring in some professionals or bring in some temporary help who are familiar with this product so that you can really get some real support. I think organizations are just like, this is the next move, we're making this move, and they don't calculate the cost in making that move. And especially as we become more of a society that's like, go next thing, the number one priority is everything. Then if we're operating in that kind of a system, I think that's a broken system as well. You're going to just
Yeah.
turn employees.
No, and that makes sense. And I think a lot of businesses are going through that right now. Where you're funny enough, actually, yesterday I was having a conversation with a young lady who works for Walt Disney World, and her job is actually to Disney will go to her and say, "This is what we need to fix." And then she starts looking at the systems and she creates like an SOP and a training for it. So then now it can run more efficiently because that's one of the things that I see needs to be done a lot more within business. But then too, how about when it comes to bringing somebody on? Because usually half of the time is the business will never grow if the CEO is the one who's doing everything and micromanaging
Yeah.
at the same
Yeah.
time. So,
100%. Yeah.
all
And
right.
that
So,
bringing on, I'm glad you called out that bringing on. So if you're going to fix your culture at your business for anyone, if it's about fixing the culture, you've got a culture problem at the business, fix that onboard, fix that hiring. And I realize that that's a maybe a lagging metric ultimately, but the organization is going to hire people over the next 12 months. And if you hire them just rapid fire, you hire them and you haven't fixed that onboarding process, then you're hiring them and recreating the culture issue that you already have at the organization. Whereas those next 5 or 6 hires could already be operating the way that you want them to. And it's the rest of the staff that you're still working on cleaning out.
no, that's a very good point. Very good point. Love that. All right, two more questions. What does a sustainable, scalable business infrastructure actually look like when you're dealing with contractors and these people that want to take it to the next level and maybe you're helping them through?
Yeah, and I think this is where the move fast and break things is more in line because I don't think there's one structure that works for every property management company. I certainly see across the companies that I consult with, they've got unique structures and it's designed around the CEO and the way that CEO operates. So sometimes we think this is the perfect business structure and all business, even within the same industry, should be operating this specific way. And it just doesn't work like that. Not if the CEO is the owner as well. And they could be working on, there's two different segments, right? They could be working on this lifestyle business that all they want to do is set up a really nice business, run their business, and this is their 50-year plan, career plan, or whatever. And they want to be able to bring their dog to work and they want to be able to have coffee with the team and BS in the morning, build those relationships and just stay in their own lane. And that lifestyle business is certainly one avenue to go. The other avenue is I'm creating this business. I want it to turn into an asset. I want to be able to have a valuation on this business. I want it to, if I ever decide to sell it in the single family home rental market, I had a mentor who said, I always want my property to be ready to be sold. So no matter what's going on, I'm fixing that hole in the drywall immediately. The first time I notice it, I'm not waiting till the resident moves out.
Mm.
If my property needs new floors, I'm putting in those new floors as soon as they need to get done. I'm painting whatever I'm painting. He had this thing. He always wanted his property to be like in show condition to the best of his abilities. And I think the same can be true of the businesses, to build them in a way, if you're in the business of business, to build it in a way that it's ready to be sold tomorrow, or at least you could if you wanted to. So I see those two different sides, the lifestyle business and the real asset of the business. And I think those are that path, knowing which path you're on is helpful in deciding what that structure looks like. In the lifestyle, it gets built around the CEO. It operates the way the CEO wants it to operate and truly moves in that workflow. You hire, you fire, you recruit, you train based on the strengths and weaknesses of the CEO and the departments that are underneath, because we're achieving this lifestyle business goal. On the other side, that structure it's a lot more corporate. Resources come and go. You hire people on for seasonal work. And when you're in a season of growth, you bring those people on, you bring them on contract. And when that season is over, maybe let them go and you move on to your next deal until you need people again. So that, I don't think there's one structure. Long answer longer. There's not one structure, but I think it is important to define your structure, which role is responsible for which tasks, and then building a system that covers all the tasks that need to be taken care of. I think also another piece, sorry, I
No, go
think
ahead.
one more piece is if you've got HR doing accounting stuff, or two other roles that really don't combine, then I think the organization is almost cheating itself, because you're asking this person to carry multiple brains around with them every day. And that's harder than just staying focused in a single lane.
No, but 100%. I think that one there, you hit the nail on the head because everyone talks about, oh, you can micromanage this and oh, you can do more than one things at one time. No, like the way I set the things up is okay, if I know I'm going to do a certain task, then I'm going to try to, and let's say it's podcasting, for example, okay? I'm not
Yeah.
going to do podcast one show at 1 o'clock, then do real estate, then do this, then no. I said, no, podcast is going to be on this day and it's all day. That's it. So
Yeah.
then I am
Right.
structured. I know where my mind frame is and I know what energy I need to keep up instead of bouncing back and forth coaching real estate deals, podcasting, parenting, all this stuff. I'm like, no, we just keep it in one structure and that's it. So that was a great point that you just made, and I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Blocking that time is crucial. I see it not work for a lot of people, but I see a lot of people not have the discipline to say no to that deal that came in the middle of the podcast. And like,
Exactly.
hey, I'll get to that deal, but right now I'm in podcast mode and I'll address that deal a little later.
Yep. No, that makes sense. All right, last question. So, if you could just leave one deed behind, one action, mindset, or even lesson for any of our listeners right now, what would that be?
If the government contract thing sounds interesting, absolutely reach out and we can work with an organization to help them decide whether or not it's the right path for them. I think one of our key areas is figuring out the fit between an organization and us. So if it's a great fit, then we'll figure out how to do business together. And when it's not a great fit, then it's a not fit. That's the bar. That's the bar I would love to see people get to, is being able to work with the people that they want to work with and not be stressed out all day because this one client, I'd really like to make a change on that one client. Let that client go, make that change,
Yeah.
if that's the change, and move on to the next thing. I think that's my big advice, work with the people like Omar, have good relationships, have positivity around the work we're doing, and then let's get to work.
No, I think that's great advice, man. Listen, want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day and really covering this. Like I said, this is interesting because never had no one on the show like this, and maybe you know what, there might be somebody out there that might reach out to you. Hey, I never even thought about getting involved with government contracting, and there you go. So maybe we just opened up a whole new avenue for somebody, which, hey, that's great if we did.
It's
And of
incredible.
course, more
Yeah.
business for you.
All
So
right, let's go.
awesome, awesome. Guys, listen, hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mr. Deed podcast show. Please remember, actions build empires. Stay focused, stay hungry, and sometimes you just got to give life a little bit of whammo. I'm Omar Andreasen. Thank you so much for tuning into the Mr. Deed podcast show. Have a great day.
This is Omar Andreasen signing off and reminding you that success in real estate and in life is built one deed at a time. Until next time, keep it real, stay sharp, and don't forget to give life a big whammo and keep moving forward.